This is a WKYT podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Victor and Andrea. Although I leaned back right as I said that, so there's this weird squeaky noise. Although I think we should maybe change the name of our podcast to Digressions with Victor and Andrea, because I've noticed a lot of our podcast is just us asking someone to tell a story, and then, wait a second, what about this other story?
That's true. We get off track very easily. But this could be as a result of how much you've been working. You poor thing. Letting people know just how tired you are right now.
As of this recording, this is my 8th day in a row, with a lot of weird shifts during the week last week.
Didn't think you were going to say shifts.
Night side. Weird shifts. That's what we have to. There was a story I was reading on Sunday night when I was filling in that was flockers fighting cancer. And in my head, because I know that it's coming up, and I'm saying, okay, say this properly. Because, one wrong thing, suddenly you're the person on YouTube and Twitter, and everyone's making fun of you.
Oh, yes.
That is a fear of us. Sometimes people will send me clips and they'll go, have you seen this? And first off, yes.
It's funny.
First off, yes, I've seen it. If it's someone making a mistake in the news, I've seen it. We've all, yes. But yeah, then for everyone else, it's hilarious. I may get a giggle for a quick moment, but then I feel bad because I am well aware that one slip on the wrong story is all it takes to be that person.
And that's happened recently, and I'm sure it's not the last time it will happen. So
exactly. And people looking from the outside, They
don't understand how you can mess up a word like that.
Yeah, and they see that and they go, oh wow.
When you talk,
being on the other side of it, you go, oh yeah, that could be me. Very
well, because it has been. We've all made those mistakes. When you talk 3.5 hours straight, which I do every morning.
Yep.
That's too much. You're not gonna say everything perfectly. You can't do it. It's not possible. And honestly, I find it endearing sometimes because I've noticed it's almost like when they say, like, when things look like too realistic, it's scary. The
uncanny valley.
Yes, the uncanny valley. So I think when a newscast is too perfect, it's weird.
You like a little bit of, well, that's one thing. Whenever we have a mistake, and I don't know if we have an official policy, but if we're supposed to have video up and it doesn't pop up, a lot of times I'll mention it. I'll be like, "What is that?" And then I don't know if people like that or if they don't. I don't know.
Right.
People.
I like transparency.
I don't know if the producer likes it, but yeah, I feel like people
keep it real. I mean, you can see.
Exactly. I feel like people like it when you're just honest about what's happening, or if you cut to a live shot and it's not there, and you're like, "Well, that didn't work. Let's go to something else."
Yeah, I prefer that. I think it looks like you can just go with the flow and keep it going, keep it moving. That's
Honesty,
what we do.
Best policy.
Somebody else that can keep it going, keep it moving.
And keeps it very honest.
Keeps it real. Mr. Dave Baker, also Buzz Baker. I think
we learned the origins of Buzz.
Yeah, which you'll find interesting. But everybody uses that so interchangeably, don't they?
One of the things I enjoyed was that he said, "Well, how long do you guys have?" And we said, "Well, 20 minutes. Can we get that?" He's like, "Yeah, okay. I'll no problem. I got some stuff to take care of, but 20 minutes." 35 minutes later, he's done talking to us.
Which is not a surprise.
Which is funny when you go back to Kenny, when Kenny was like, yeah, we'd have to give him cues a minute ahead of time just to try to get him to stop. I was like, yep, that's all right. But it worked out. But he was very gracious of his time, and we definitely appreciate that. And he's a good talker. Surprise, surprise. Man's been doing it for a while, and he knows, he knows his stuff.
You'll see why.
So here is our conversation with Dave Buzz Baker. Hope you all enjoy it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Conversations with Victor and Andrea. Today's guest, Dave Baker, a.k.a. Buzz Baker. What do you prefer? I feel like everybody calls you something different.
It's whatever everybody wants. It actually all started when we were doing the Raycom Jefferson pilot football games, and there were all three of us on the broadcast were named Dave.
So they needed something else.
There's Dave Neal, who'll be here doing a basketball game on Saturday, and Dave Rowe, who played with the Raiders, and myself. And so because of that, some guy from Louisiana sent me those. So you still get those every now.
Dave and Dave and Dave.
That's right. That's right. We were always known as the Three Daves. So that's how Buzz came up to kind of differentiate. But whatever everybody likes is A-okay with me.
Why is it Buzz?
Oh, that story. This is a true story. Okay, so I don't know. It had to be 82, 83. I'd here early. And we were over in the sports office one day, and Bromley was over there banging on a typewriter. And he goes, "You need a nickname. Buzz. We're going to call you Buzz." And that's it.
That was it?
I wish there was some... If this weren't a family program, I could tell you some people that have alleged many things as to how it came about, but that's the entire true story. And one day, Kaywood Ledford, who I was fortunate enough to do some stuff with, heard it and started using it, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Once Kaywood says it, it's
I guess, yeah. But it was. He always put the Y on it though. It was like Buzzy.
So if the audio is a little different on this one, we are actually recording this episode in Buzz's office.
Which is really nice.
We keep getting kicked out of all of our other
You
rooms.
got nice digs, buddy.
But you can always come do it, and then you can
nice.
use the auxiliary office in the back where I store all my stuff.
We didn't know there was.
Because when you've been here 37 years, you accrue a lot of stuff.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning. How did you even get started in the business?
I was a political science major with a minor in history at Georgetown, and did the games on radio over there, and was always interested in everything. And so I was trying to figure out what to do, and so I came over and interviewed with Denny Treese one summer, and he gave me some advice. And so the summer before my senior year at Georgetown, I actually I was from Ohio, stayed down here. Happy Osborne, who coached at Georgetown, he was just getting started out. He and I had a room and a dog we weren't supposed to have. He was trying to sign players. I worked at a nursery rolling sod and cutting thistles during the day, and came over here and interned at night, and kept doing that during the course of the next year. And
Rolling sod and cutting thistles.
Yeah, he said a nursery. I thought at first I was like,
you thought
changing
babies.
diapers, and yeah.
No, this was Singer Gardens up in Stamping Ground, Kentucky. This was outdoor, manual, dirty, hot labor.
Dirty hot labor.
Which was actually okay, because when I was up home in Ohio, I worked in a factory up there, and that's when the factory closed, I went up and got a trinket, and so that's still one of the bolts from the actual paper mill. But anyway, later that next spring, I was still interning here, and I was here on the weekends and things like that. And my last semester of school over at Georgetown, I took coaching and officiating football by appointment, and then I got 12 hours for interning at the KYT Frankfurt Bureau, which we had at the time, during the 82 legislative session. So that's where I made all my political deals and all those connections. And so I still didn't have a job. And there was a guy who got fired over in the sports department 2 weeks before I graduated, and I had an opening, and that's how it happened.
Slid in.
I think anyone would think, though, that you were just born to do sports, and that wasn't your intention.
It could have been. It's really funny. I'm trying to see if I got. Let's see, the red-haired guy there. That's Jeff Kirby, and of course you can't see it on the podcast. But Jeff and I grew up together, and we thought we were going to take over his dad's law firm. Mm-hmm. And so I went the sports route. Jeff went and took over the law firm, and he's now a judge, but he now writes sports books. So it was all kind of, I was either going to do something. I thought I was going to coach. I thought I was going to go back home and teach or do something like that.
But you knew you'd be connected to sports at some point.
I kind of thought, but I mean, it didn't have to be in this business. Like when I was in college, I umpired college baseball games, and I had thoughts of going to the Major League Umpire School and doing some things like that. But, the thing about it is when you work in sports, you don't get to watch a lot of sports, right? It's kind of like you don't go home and watch the news probably.
It's like when people ask me about a certain news story, I'm like, well, if I didn't cover it, I don't know about it.
Right.
Because you're so
right.
You're so busy focusing on your tree that you don't see the forest.
Right. But from our standpoint, I love sports. I love being a part of teams. The people, my dad was a hardworking guy from down in Hazard who only had an 8th grade education, and he was always working at the factory. So he wasn't the typical little league dad, but I know he loved me. So my biggest, the biggest influences I had in my life were my coaches, and I've just always wanted to kind of try to give back in that way. And at least on this side of the business, I tell people when I go out speaking that usually when a news crew comes to town, it's not a good thing. I mean, something's happened. There's been a tragedy. There's, malfeasance in office or something. But when the sports guys come to town,
everybody's happy.
Something great's going on. Team's winning. There's a great story. Somebody's signing with UK or overcoming a big injury. And so it's a lot of fun for me that way.
It must be nice. Yeah, no one's excited to see us.
Well,
they're excited to see you.
Victor, not so much. But yeah, Little Miss Sunshine, they're fine with you come rolling in.
Come on now. All right, so you mentioned something about teammates, and you've had a lot of teammates over the years here at WKYT. What are some of your favorite stories of your time here? Such a broad question.
Well, how deeply have we gotten on this podcast and everything?
We get into everything.
No, but I mean, these other people are kind of like surface, right?
Well, I think the other thing is a lot of the people we've talked to are newer. We talked to Dick. He's been here a while.
Oh, absolutely.
We talked to Kenny.
We went through Kenny. Actually, I was responsible for getting Kenny in the building. Did he mention that?
No.
No, he probably didn't. Kevin.
Yes, he did. He had to wrangle you in.
He didn't wrangle me. Kevin Donnelly, who was the football coach at Georgetown College, who's still coaching, wanted to do a show. And he came up with this concept for the high school sports journal. And somehow he had a connection with Kenny or something. Kenny was working for him. He was still like working construction or something like that. And then as we started doing the high school sports show, I told our folks here at the time, I said, we need to hire this guy. I mean, this is the same way it happened with our boss, Jeff Anderson. He was in a different place here in town. And I came back one day and I said to Chris Mossman, I said, we need to hire this guy.
You got a good eye.
This guy, well, I don't know. I hope. I mean, hopefully it's job security is what it is.
There you go.
But we went through a lot of stuff with Dick when Dick was a sports director and everything in all those days. And you had Eddie Sutton's resignation, because of the NCAA stuff. And we just went through a lot of that not too long ago because they're doing a documentary on him. Not a puff piece. It's a straight up look at everything that went on with him and everything. But I can remember, when you're doing things like that and you're trying to break stories and things like that, and it's a competitive environment, you're on pins and needles and you hope you get things right. And, they were a lot of fun across the street over at Anita Madden's party.
Oh, tell me stories.
Well, no, I'm
fascinated by Anita Madden. Shouldn't surprise you.
I said on the air the other night, it's the one place. It's the one place where at the time you wish you had a cell phone camera. Oh, and now you sit and say, "Thank God there were no cell phones."
That could not exist.
Right.
People get in trouble.
Right. There's. I'll tell you a couple of stories. There's a picture in the back, and they're putting in new carpet, so I can't show you. But it's Palumbo and I are with the Blessed Reunion of Souls. That group, if you remember them. Wow.
I love Blessed Reunion of Souls.
Right. And then we did a live interview one night with Carrie Fisher, and as you know, Carrie Fisher had a lot of stuff going on in her life.
Yep.
And she had it all going on like about 2-3 seconds before we went on the air. Oh, and I've been around a lot of athletics and have heard a lot of language. And I mean, when they came to us, I had no idea what was going to happen. It was fabulous, but I had no idea.
She was kind of known for not holding back anyway.
Oh, my God. But then the 85 Final Four was here at Rupp Arena. It was the last Final Four before they took it to these stadiums. And so Joe B had resigned as coach. And so with the Final Four being here, it was like a smorgasbord. The coaches' convention was here too, and everybody who wanted the job was all a part of the deal. And they had a big party over at Anita's Sunday night before the championship game. Oh, it was a really good party. But I remember we were working on this story, and I was over in the old office, and somebody called me about 7 o'clock and said, listen, everybody's going to go over to that party, and they're going to be reporting tonight that Lute Olson is going to be the coach, except you. And you're going to be the only one that's right. And Lute had accepted the job, but then turned it down. And it was a person who was a really influential booster who was there, who is still alive, so the name shall remain secret. But, I just remember things like that and people that have helped me along the way, and that person was 1,000% right.
Ooh, that's good. You're good at getting scoops. You know a lot of people.
It's a relationship business. It's a relationship world. You never know where, somebody's going to mention something, and it doesn't make any difference to me, whether you're on air, whether you're an attorney, whether you're a coach, whether you're a teacher. You can never. What I have found now is, because I'm like older than dirt, is so many people that I had this happen one night. I'm busting tail before satellites and everything to cover an 8th region basketball game, which is where Scott County played, like over in, it wasn't Oldham County, but somewhere over there by Oldham County. It was a hall, state roads and everything. And all of a sudden I'm hustling back and I see blue lights. I'm like, oh God, are you kidding me? Really? And a state trooper, comes up to the car and says, hey, what are you doing? You don't remember this, but you did a story on me. Right. And I said, dude, you didn't have to put the lights on me. You could have stopped and said hello. But it's just crazy. J.P. Miller, who's done such a great job, is the head of Paul Miller Ford. I first met him when I did a story on him. He was a really successful diver, and he was 9 years old. And he's a client now. And that's just kind of the whole circle of life. You know, there are people, I tell people all the time that the feet you step on the way up are attached to the tail you kiss on the way down. And people really need to remember that in this day and age.
You know,
I was going to say, I've had that where people I meet one time, unfortunately I made a positive impression. A year later, I'll get a phone call, a tip about some story that I didn't know. And
You make that impression, and it's a great side of our business, but it's a really challenging side of our business too, because you make that impression, good or bad, no matter what you're doing. Whether we have got a jacket on that actually has the logo on it. I mean, we're the logo every place we go.
People, everywhere we go, we represent. Yeah. Whenever people ask. I'll hear people in this business talk about having private Facebook pages. I was like, you don't have anything private.
No.
That is, you are representing your company with everything you do.
No, but you really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that thinks that is just, they're setting themselves up to get in some kind of trouble.
yeah. You know the show Big Brother?
Yeah.
I think you'd win.
No.
Don't you? Victor, come on.
I think he could play the game very well.
I can see you. And I can also see you could have had a huge career in politics. You just have, what is your
He still might.
I know, you still could. What is your key to just, you're such a people person. You're so good with people.
I'm sure people don't want me to get into this. But there's just no middle anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, I was on a radio show over in Louisville today with a guy who used to write about us, Billy Reed, legendary sportscaster, Drew Diener, who used to work with us, and a guy named Perrin Johnson, who we covered when he was playing over at Louisville. And it's funny that you mentioned this, because I said, this is like the Louisville version of Big Brother with you three guys sitting there on this deal. But, you know, they were talking about a deal last night where somebody said something. I mean, you can actually say something to somebody, and it won't have nearly the impact that it does if you, like, tweet it or post it. Then it becomes all sorts of things. But it's just, you know, regardless of party or anything, they're really good people. Like, I've got to run over to Frankfurt this afternoon and see some folks at a reception thing. I mean, they're really good people on both sides of the aisle in this state. And people just get so dug in. It's really, and it happens nationally too, but it's really kind of, it's just disappointing. I mean, I'm playing in a basketball game in a few weeks with Rocky Adkins.
And me.
And you were a no-show last year, since you brought it up.
This year.
You were a no-show last year. When I heard you were coming,
show up to cheer.
yes, you did commit,
No,
and you
I
were a
didn't.
no-show.
No.
You probably got a phone call from some potential suitor, and
Why is this always
This is a common theme of our podcast. is Andrew's love life.
and you decided to just like bail on us, but. So, you know, like Greg Stumbo's family and ours have been friends. Our kids are friends. As everybody knows, I'm friends with the Godfather, Mitch McConnell, as I call him. I actually call him that because he is the Godfather. I mean, it's like
arguably one of the most people in the country.
we had been doing a football game, and it was the day after Thanksgiving, and it was Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and he was here in town at an event or something. And it was in a private home, and he saw me, and he came back into the kitchen. He goes, "Boy, you guys had a heck of a game the other day." I said, "What?" He said, the game on Friday. I said, "Oh, my gosh." I started laughing. He said, "What?" I said, "I just have a hard time thinking about you sitting there in your boxers watching Ole Miss, Mississippi State while the secretary is bringing you a leftover turkey sandwich." But I'm telling you, he's an incredibly...
I was going to say, pull back the curtain.
He's an incredibly funny guy. I mean, regardless of what you think about him politically, he's a dedicated public servant who loves sports and is just a funny dude. But you can't ever get that across to people. You know, it's just, you know,
That's not his job.
for some people the walls are up and it doesn't make any difference. But I wish. When I used to do the whole talk radio thing, I used to talk about how we can all disagree without being disagreeable. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that's possible anymore.
It doesn't seem to be.
So at this point, how many different jobs do you have?
Oh my gosh.
Because you pop
Not
up
nearly
a
as many
lot
as
of different
people
places.
think.
Okay.
Not nearly as many as people think. I mean, my day here, I do our noon sports and then I do our 6:30 show. And the rest of the time is spent here in marketing. And, you know, we're all kind of creatures of what we do. And so, like, when I was growing up in my hometown in southwestern Ohio, there was a guy named Dan Humphreys who did the play-by-play of the local high school games and everything. And I would see him frequently. And he was also the guy that sold the ads. So in situations like that, it can help get you in some doors, and so that's, Ralph Hacker did the same thing down at WVLK successfully for so many years, and I've been blessed to be able to get in and see a lot of new people who are doing things that we're doing now, and a lot of people that have been longtime clients. So that's kind of, I do the UK pregame.
I was going to say, you don't just do stuff for WKYT.
Right.
That stuff, that's not through Gray, is it? That's so different.
No, that's JMI, who's a partner of ours.
Okay.
It's been several different, to go all the way back when they first started doing games here. There were 10 different networks, and then they consolidated and everything, and it was KYT and Host Communications and WVLK Radio, and that's kind of evolved over the years, and they're rights holders. But I do that for them, and now with the ESPN contract, thank goodness I don't travel nearly as much as I used to, but like all those games for like softball and soccer and things like that over at UK are on the ESPN app. And so we're able to do some of those games like that without having to travel and without having it mess up the work schedule here.
Yeah. What are some of the most common questions you get from people out and about? Because I think everybody
about
feels
them
like
cats?
they know you. But that is, you talk about divisiveness. The one thing we all have in Kentucky is the Wildcats. Right? I mean, everybody loves them.
Right. Well, everybody's got a stake. Everybody's got a stake in it, depending on what the day
Everybody
is.
thinks they know what they could do to improve.
That is correct. It's like Cal says. You get you have all these different coaches, but it's people ask me about coaches and players and kind of what they're like, and I think we're just in a period right now where we're really blessed, at least over there around those programs and virtually all the programs around here. Great kids and great coaches, and it's a lot of fun to cover.
And they have to be a lot more careful too now, all the kids, because they just have so much more access to them. They all have Twitter. They all, everybody has phones.
Yeah, but they know they've got to be careful that they're.
Well, they grew up in it though. That's the difference.
Training?
Oh, they absolutely do training, and there are. I don't know the exact number right now, but probably 2-3 people employed at some level in the UK athletics department that do nothing but monitor athletes' social media use. And they have to. It's protecting the brand.
Yeah.
It's protecting the brand.
So who would you say are a few of the people that you've been most close with over the years? I know you and Bill have such a great rapport. I enjoy when you two are together. You crack me up because you both have the politics stuff in common.
Well, he's like Mr. Politics,
spar.
right? I mean, you don't ever see him doing hand-to-hand combat over there or anything, right? I mean, no, it's I've got a lot of wonderful relationships with people here, but I came to a point at some point in time, probably a couple of decades ago, that I really don't do a lot socially with people here because you work with those people every day. You know what I'm saying? And relationships can sometimes become complicated and everything, but we've just got a wonderful core of people here, and we're unique because we've been able to bring in great new people like you all, and then people who have been here for a long time. I think over the last, how old? I guess Maddie's 21 now. Last 20 plus years, you try to do as much stuff as you can with your kids because of the crazy schedule and everything, and be there as much as you can. And then really because of the way things are, if you're going to do something, you just don't do it out in public very. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything, but it's just,
What's it been like being kind of a constant and seeing so many people come and go throughout the years?
I have wondered about that. I don't know if we could check the records or not, but I guess I've probably worked with thousands of people. Wow. I mean, typically we have between 100 and 125, 130 employed here at any one time, full or part-time, over 37 years and all that turnover. I mean, that's a lot of people. And it's great to see people because they're different. They're all over the place. There are people that have been up and down. There was Cindy Presler, who was a meteorologist here, who left. She went through a deal in St. Louis, and her contract wasn't renewed. And, I just saw yesterday on social media where she's back working down in Florida now. Somebody like the whole sparring match that happened up there at the White House not too long ago with old Jim Acosta, and then Peter Alexander tried to come and take up for him. Peter was an intern here
he stopped in.
He did last year. He was in for Pam Brown's wedding. and he stops by, and you'll get a note from him or a ping every now and then. And so it's great to see people like that. But you love to see people enjoy what they're doing. This can be a very demanding business at times, and you see people come and go, and you see them at different places in their life. But hopefully what we do at the end of the day is it's a very deadline-driven business and things like that. But you remember that there are people whose lives are being affected every day, not only that we work with, but those people who ask us to come into their homes or join us on their phones or whatever.
So we had Ken Harvener on not too long ago, and he's one of the people, like you said, you got him into this business, and he made a comment about you saying
Lord.
that, no, it was good. It was good. So he said that you could light Buzz on fire and he wouldn't miss a beat. Now, tell us when you have missed a beat. Like, what is your biggest on-air bumble? Because you are so good. You can roll out of anything. It's a skill I wish I had more. But can you think of a time when you just lost it on air? Or when everything was just going wrong?
You know, there are a lot of times when things have gone wrong. I mean, back in the early days, we were doing a show one night. The teleprompter caught on fire here.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, there was like
He literally caught him on fire.
there was like smoke coming out of it.
Wow.
We had a producer who fell coming down the steps to the studio, and we're doing a newscast while the ambulance is taking that individual out.
What?
I'll give you a couple other ones too on it. This is on a. I was thinking about this last night when I was watching the LSU basketball game. We were doing these things have really happened. This is not made up now.
We
Okay.
have lots of stuff happen. Like Steve just now has to wear a brace because he got hit on the sidelines of the bowl game.
Steve Moss, yeah.
Right. I'll veer off just there.
back to that.
No.
Yeah,
I'll
sorry.
veer off ever so slightly because you talked about relationships. So Henrietta Johnson is a lady that I've known for 25 plus years, who's in charge of all the UK athletes and everything. And she's talked for years and years and years about retiring. So Steve gets hit at the bowl game, and he calls and he says, "Hey, can you call Henry and see if you can get me in?" Because she's gotten everybody in his station. And I called her up and I said, "Are you still talking that trash about retiring and everything?" She goes, "Dave, tomorrow's my last day." I said, "Oh my God."
Ooh.
And so I went over there, and she treated him the way she would treat any multi-million-dollar athlete or somebody that didn't have a nickel. And it's relationships like that I remember. But I'll give you just a couple of quick ones. We were doing a football game down at LSU. It was Kentucky and LSU. And you guys remember those old Ikegami cases, those silver cases that the old cameras came in, really bulky. A lot of radio people use them like that. Jeff Van Oat and I come back up the steps, and the LSU engineer was like laying on top of his case, and he had a heart attack, and we tried to get him back. The ambulance came. He eventually died. He was a guy who probably shouldn't have been carrying that stuff. And so, like, there's no studio or anything. So, I mean, there are EMTs, like this office that we're sitting in right now. There are EMTs working on somebody
While
while you're on the air.
Yeah.
And there's no other place you can go. You can't go to like network control or some other correspondent or something. And so that one, I mean, we just had to do it. And that one really shook me. But we were also, when we were doing radio, we were on the air forever, it seems like, during the ice storm that happened when everything was out.
You and I did a story. I interviewed you about the tornado during the Final Four game.
That's right. It was during the SEC tournament.
Oh, yes.
We
yes.
were on the air at the SEC tournament in the Georgia Dome when that thing hit, and the Weather Channel did a documentary about that. And you've immediately got to flip the switch from being a sports person to a news person, because there were so many people here in Lexington. It was right before the Kentucky game that had people down there and they're like, "Is everybody okay? Everybody okay?" And so we were on the air for several hours after that. And then the one that still just always sticks with me is Tom Leach and I were on the air when the planes hit the towers on 9/11. Oh, wow. And I remember Neil Jackson, who was one of the engineers and does some on-air stuff, had come around the corner and said, something's happened. And about a week or two before that, there was some guy in one of those what are those bicycles that like fly, hydroplane? It's not a hydroplane, but it's, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, one of those things had gotten caught around the steeple at like the Empire State Building. It's something like that. And so then we're talking, 8:53, whatever I think was the timer, and we actually saw live as we were on the air that plane hit that building, and we were on the air for about another 8 hours. But I've just been very blessed to be able to do that, and I mean, you guys know how it is. You just do it. You just do it, and you try not to think about what's going on, but you just know that people are counting on you. And
you go into a different mode too during these situations. Yeah.
What was it like for you when Rob announced he was retiring?
Oh, gosh. He is great. I mean, he is a one of a kind. And, I mean, we had been through a lot. And he was a guy that, I mean, he could run the range emotionally. But then when that light came on, he was that guy that everybody saw, and I mean, it could happen in an instant. And then as soon as the camera's off, then he's back to where he is. But I mean, just a consummate professional. I mean, it's kind of an end of an era.
I thought about how long you two worked together and all the stuff that you must have seen together, and it just seemed.
Listen, I can tell you everything there is to know.
See, I've really...
about Morrison's Cafeteria, because Rob, before he got married, loved going to Morrison's Cafeteria.
What is that?
Oh dear God!
What? I don't know what that is.
Is that the one on Broadway?
There's not one here in town anymore. There used to be one over at the Lexington Mall, but it's a national chain. I mean, it's like a cafeteria. It's a cafeteria.
They didn't have it in Nicholasville.
No, they would not have it in Nicholasville. I actually met the CEO, Ronnie Laborde, during one of our games. But, I mean, you could go and you could get whatever, right? And I'm telling you, he was meticulous about what he got. And I bet Rob Bromley did not gain like 10 pounds from the time I first met him in the 80s until he retired. And it's because he was the slowest eater on the planet.
I can totally see that.
Which is entirely different from the way most of us have to be in this building. You're just choking something down or something.
You get your 4 minutes to eat. You got
Every night, that dude was over at Morrison's Cafeteria. And we would learn about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness at Morrison's.
Do you do a Rob Bromley impression? I feel like everybody does an impression of Rob Bromley or Bill Bryant.
Everybody tries. I mean, Bromley is a fairly easy one to do.
Mm-hmm.
You just break into this is Rupp Arena in downtown Lexington, and tonight the Kentucky Wildcats play for another SEC championship as they host Shaquille O'Neal and the LSU Tigers. And then Bill, you've just got to go into Foghorn Leghorn. And good afternoon from 27 News First. Here's what's happening at noon.
That's so good.
Right?
Andrew's going to use that now.
We actually did a bit. I forget which radio station it was, but we actually did a bit on radio one time. It was called Bill or Buzz, where we
do each other.
No. I would read something, or we would get a piece of tape of him or something, and the callers would have to guess whether it was him or me.
That's awesome. You know who does good impressions? Brian Milam, who you've also worked with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, who's another one of those guys I can remember covering him when he was a baseball player over at Morehead State. Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, any final words of advice? You always try to give me fatherly wisdom, which I usually ignore.
Usually.
She ignores most advice. That's
See, I'd really get upset about it if I didn't have 3 daughters of my own, so I'm used to it, right?
I guess I should get used to it.
No,
about stuff,
there's no question you should get used to it.
I'll give her what I think is good advice, and then she just doesn't follow it.
I know.
And then what will happen with your precious little daughter is you've got to be very conscious of hand position, because they'll go from like this to this
just
to this.
Suddenly asking
palm up.
There you go.
Palm up. Where's the money?
Palm up.
She's just started grabbing my glasses off my face.
See, there you go.
It's a good age.
There
Try
you
to
go.
keep her there as long as possible.
Well, if she's 19, hitting me in the face, that's probably not as good. But all right.
All right. No final words?
That, you know what? I feel like we've got
Final
lots of
words
words of
of
wisdom
love?
scattered all throughout this.
Yeah.
I think people just ought to, if I could, I don't want to sound like get off my grass guy. Get off the social media a little bit.
Yes.
Communicate with people face to face.
Yes.
Have a little joy in your life because there's so much to be happy about. And when you come across somebody who's having a bad day and it's inflicted upon you, I try to tell people that you just got to remember that wasn't intended for you. That there's something else going on that you don't know about. And just give them a little extra space, as my boy Oscar would say.
All righty. Good advice. Well, Buzz, thank you so much for talking to us. We appreciate you giving us a lot more of your time than we expected.
Guys, you can come to the office anytime.
We might do that.
The sign outside says we may doze, but we never close.
All right. Thanks so much.
So, Andrea, how do you feel that went?
So good.
You enjoyed it. It was like an education.
Oh, I mean, he is always, I call him a tornado. When I fill in on the noon show, Buzz, does one segment for the noon show that's like, 3 minutes long, but like he makes an impression every time he comes in there. And he's so much fun and he's such a good storyteller. And I mean, that's why he's had such longevity in this business. And I forgot to tell him during our actual interview, but my mom, she loves him too. And I remember her saying, I don't care one thing about sports. She's like, but I could listen to Dave Baker talk all day because he's just so entertaining and you just feel like you're there.
Very easy to listen to. Man, he's done so much too. That's the thing. He's like, oh, I don't have that many jobs right now. But then he starts talking about the marketing stuff he's doing, the 2 different shows that he does sports for. He's like, oh, and then also the stuff for ESPN. Yeah, and also the radio stuff. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
and he's like,
well,
I was on a Louisville radio station earlier today. I'm going to Frankfurt later today. And you're just like, what?
Yeah, where do you find the time?
How?
So that was fun. That was
He's
a
a
good
pro.
talk. I enjoyed that. So we've started a new year. I know, last episode was the first one we'd actually recorded in the new year.
Right.
The previous ones before that, little look behind the curtain. We record these. We tend to record them in bunches because it's hard to find time. A lot of it is just scheduling. But so the new year, I'm not big on resolutions.
Me either.
I feel like I generally just break them right away. But I am trying to eat healthier. Mm-hmm. But that's mainly just for health issues because I don't want to die before my daughter graduates high school.
Wow. Dark. Victor.
Well,
come
also,
on now.
I was putting on some pants I hadn't worn for a while. That was the real
Reality check.
Oh boy! And I ordered some shirts, and I realized I might need to go up a size in my dress shirts.
Oh,
So
that's the worst feeling, isn't it?
Well, it's this weird thing because it's like I've done it before. Here's the funny thing: the last time I set out to lose weight, I did it.
You did a great
My
job.
body reacts pretty quickly if I'm consistent. My issue is sweets. I have an issue with like sugar,
same.
gummy bears, that kind of stuff. But my body reacts pretty quickly to it. Maybe not as much now that I'm getting older, but I still, I lost 20 pounds, and I started getting messages from people asking me if I was sick. They were going, "I've noticed you've lost some weight. Is everything okay?"
You're like, oh my gosh, thank you so
It's
much.
like, well, yeah. It's like, are you dying? No, I'm trying to eat healthy, and I've started exercising regularly. So that's my fear is, if I start losing weight, people will think that I'm dying. So if you see that happen, just know that I don't think I'm dying. I'm potentially just trying to be healthy.
There's nothing worse because it doesn't happen overnight. And I'm in that phase where I'm noticing my clothes are a little tighter than they used
And this
to
job
be.
makes it so rough. I came in yesterday.
I
I'd had a
know.
very good day. I'd eaten healthy. And then I come in and there's this giant tray of cookies.
Oh, cookies. Yes.
like,
I
come
know.
on, newsroom. Help me out.
And
Fazoli's brought food the other day. I love Fazoli's. It's one of my weaknesses. I worked there
It's
for a while.
free.
It was free.
I can never
That's the other
say.
thing.
I feel it's wrong to say
Yeah,
no to
you don't want it
free
to go to waste.
food.
Think of the starving children.
I know. Bill is, he has so much willpower that
He's a
I
workout
do not
fiend
have.
too, though.
He's a workout fiend.
I feel like anytime people tell me they've seen Bill, it's in the gym.
or Meyer. Those are the 2 places that
Wearing
Bill
his
can be
Zumbas.
found. If you're looking for Bigfoot Bill, that's where he's going to be. But anytime somebody comes on the Fox show, because we have we interview people for the Fox Morning Show, and oftentimes they'll bring food in, and me and Jim are just like vultures immediately. We're like, do you have to have this for the actual show, or can we just go ahead and eat it now? Like, is it
Do people
okay?
need to see it, or can I just tell
every
them that
now
it
and
was
then you'll
very
see a
good?
bite out of something, and that's me or Jim,
I mean, that's the way the news. Whenever an email
But
goes
Bill
out or somebody
never
lets
does it.
everybody know, really,
It's a huge, I try to tell people, because I'm dead serious, I'm like, it's a huge compliment if Bill will eat your food if you've been on the show. Wow. I remember somebody made us a breakfast pizza that wasn't even on their menu. They just made it as like a thank you for having them on the show, which was so nice. And Bill ate a whole slice.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even have to finish it for him.
I'm always so jealous. Like I come in and I see Amber will have a thing of grapes or some melon or something healthy, and I go, that's a good idea. I should. It's not like this is the first time I've ever thought fruit. Yeah, that's what I should be doing. So yeah,
it's
the other
just so
day.
hard. It's preparation. That's what's hard about
it's
it.
preparation. Yeah, you're tired at night, and then also it's just a matter of being cognizant. When I'm out in the field, a lot of times there just aren't that many healthy options. So
I've been eating a lot of Chick-fil-A lately. A lot of Chick-fil-A.
Do a lot of Subway.
And I hate pickles, but for
I
some
love
reason,
pickles.
a pickle on that chicken sandwich is so good.
it's good.
Isn't that weird?
Hardee's, they used to have sweet pickles on their $6 burger, and they stopped. And the fact that I knew when they stopped and keep track of that is probably one of the reasons my shirts were a little too tight. But yeah, so that's what I've got going on.
Yeah.
No real recommendations. Just if you guys see me potentially losing weight, don't worry, I'm not dying.
Good to know.
I might
I'm
feel
so
like I'm
happy.
dying. I might want to die.
I can't go on by myself. This is Conversations with Victor and Andrea. I'm not ready.
Yeah, then it's just like, no, it's just conversations with Andrea.
Nobody wants that. Nobody.
I think people are enjoying it.
I hope so. And we are so thankful to everybody that's listening. Please continue to
Yeah, we've
listen.
had a few people on Twitter. Shelby's mom.
Shelby's
Everybody
mom,
who's
our
listening,
number
we
one fan.
appreciate it. I don't know that my mom has actually listened, but
My mom is like Kenny. She's like, well, I don't
know how to.
I don't have a pod to listen to the podcast. Like she doesn't get it.
Well, it's weird to us too, because for us, just the idea of a podcast. I mean, I've been listening to them for 8-9 years, like as long as
I
they've been
love
going
them.
on, and so there are people who've asked me about it. I'm like, oh, well, you just use the podcast app on your phone, and they're like, I have a podcast app on my phone.
Right.
Like they have they have the capability. They just don't understand that that's a thing because they've never listened before. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, if you're listening to it on SoundCloud, know that you can probably download it to your phone. If you're listening to it,
That way you don't have to sit in your computer with headphones in, But that's a good way to pass time at work if you don't have anything going on.
there you go. Well, all right.
My plan for today is to go home and watch The Bachelor.
Oh, are you you know what? It sounds weird, but sometimes The Bachelor will be on, and I'll be like, oh, we should watch this. And my wife's like, I don't think so. I think
It's
she's
just like the
tired of it.
Backstreet Boys. You want to go to the Backstreet Boys
know.
concert. You guys gender roles do not apply, and I
Yeah.
love it.
We do what we
So
want.
progressive.
That's what I think. Well, I grew up in a house full of women. Me and my mom. Sometimes we lived with my grandma, and so
My brother, same way.
a lot of female-centric movies and stuff. And I'm just comfortable around.
That's why we get along
Comfortable
so
with
well.
myself. Okay. Well, that's the thing. Growing
You're
up, a lot of
such
my
a
friends
ladies'
were,
man.
Well, no, that's the exact opposite. Growing up, it was all of my friends were female, especially in high school. I mean, I think I had one girlfriend the entire time I was in high school. So all my friends were females. I was the mayor of the friend zone.
Oh, Victor. Did I ever tell you the story about my brother came up with he had a Facebook page that he created called Being Single. And he put himself in a relationship with being single on Facebook.
Nice.
Being single has like 10,000 friends now.
Because
he
everybody
just
wants
created
to
it
be.
as like something funny for his Facebook page, and now everybody is.
There you go.
Isn't that great?
You should monetize that.
He's pretty smart. He's a
All right,
smart
everybody.
guy.
Well, hopefully you've enjoyed our ramblings. We're not sure yet what we're going to do for next week. We'll figure that out. But
We'll figure
we've
it out.
enjoyed the last
Again,
few.
if you would like to hear from somebody specific, let us know. We'll try to make it happen.
Yeah. We'll see if they exist at the station. At the same time, that's one of the other issues is finding people whose schedules overlap with ours because a lot of the people they're here at night and then they leave in the morning.
True.
So we'll figure that out. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to this episode. Hope you enjoyed our talk with Buzz, and hope you enjoyed me revealing too much about how sad I was in high school. Bye.
Bye.
You got to do it right.
Bye.